DWP was commissioned to do the interior design of a variety of the interior spaces. We looked at the porte cochere, the arrival, obviously the main lobby, check-in, reception areas, the living room that we know, all of the guest rooms, the signature spa, and the FF&E around the wet deck. Quite an undertaking for a hotel, and obviously there's been some great collaborations with other designers in other areas, and we love that. We love collaborating with other people. Well, the W brand, I mean, it's renowned around the world, isn't it? I mean, in the day, there's a real persona around the W. You know, started out of New York City, so it has a real sense of, I guess, vibrancy and energy. But it plays in the luxury segment for Marriott as well. But it's distinctive luxury, and it's really based on design. End of the day, all the way we touch the design of the building has to relate back to design as an ethos. The selection of FF&E, the kind of space planning, it still has a massive influence around design. But obviously we have an arrival experience, which is both, you know, it takes a view out to the ocean and a view back to the skyline. So we actually have this interesting kind of sequence of arrival almost under the fronds of palm trees. So the experience in the porte cochere is about this dappled light, and the idea that the sun going down into the evening, into the sunset. So you can see the sort of flow of the form of the soffit. It's a really strong kind of concept around under this sort of softened light as the sun disappears over. But then from the porte cochere you arrive then into the main lobby. The main lobby is this wonderful voluminous atrium, and that's really about, I guess, traditional Arabian villages. You know, that sort of architecture that we all know from the years gone by, where it wasn't perfect, it was meandering, adobe wall constructions with deep recesses. And what I love about it is actually you could almost look across to your neighbour and greet them in the morning or the evening or whenever it might be, and that lovely interplay across. So you'll see in the atrium space all these little pepperings of openings, these portals, that really start to celebrate the idea of that Arabian traditional architecture. And then when you look across the flooring of the same space in the lobby, you can start to see where, I guess, the sand meets the sea. There's a really thin divide in the flooring, and there's this lovely interplay of the land versus the water. Lots of material changes across the flooring. You can sort of see there's a flowing, almost a recessing of the tide in a way. So a lot of layering and curious typical W moments as well, where it looks like some of the windows have fallen out of the village and they're actually now peppered and scattered across the floor. Of course, there are opportunities now to sit on and to gather socially. So the atrium is one of the great moments, which I think is a specific welcoming device to the W. Of course, the away spa is almost one of the signatures of a typical W. And DWP's approach is really around creating something which celebrated the context. I mean, we're on the Gulf, over the water. So really we draw a lot of inspiration around this beautiful light reflecting through the water bodies, almost a kaleidoscoped effect. There's a lot of discovery in terms of the way the spaces are planned, cues and references back to even the traditions of fishing and pearl diving, etc. within the space. But it's a richness, and there's a lot of unknown and uncertainty upon first viewing. So the light and what we do with the lighting effects can change from different times of the day. When you walk into the away spa, you don't know it's a spa. It could be a bar, it could be a nightclub, but it's fascinating. One of the other great areas we've looked at is really the living room. It's one of the epicenters of a standard W. It's the center of all of the design. So for us, the living room is the main bar, and it has to work day into night. It obviously changes with this sense of energy, obviously, as it moves into the evening. And as a space, that's one of the areas where we know is really interesting, because our interplay, or our interpretation of the design there was around looking under gold under a microscope, this lovely faceted form, strong play on geometry. Why is that important? Well, on the Palm Jumeirah is a strong sense of geometry. So when you think about the living room, these strong faceted gold forms, little bits of negative and positive recesses is one of the really interesting kind of other areas where DWP had a lot of fun as well. Of course, we looked at the rooms. There's obviously the wet deck, which is one of the signature pieces of the entire hotel. And if you think about the planning of the hotel, it all looks on to the wet deck, which is probably one of the amphitheatres of the space. So we looked at a lot of the furniture. You know, we wanted to celebrate the idea that this space can be used day to night to day. It's one of the most fascinating parts of a hotel setup that I think really creates a great opportunity for people to appreciate from either within your room or be part of the action, be part of the architecture.